What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the workshop. I hope all of you are doing awesome. Today, we're going to be working on this weed trimmer that's been giving me some trouble. It's not been running very good. Sometimes it's hard to start. Sometimes it runs perfect. I've already gone through the carburetor, removed it, cleaned it out. Problem still is the same. So today, we're going to replace it. My name's Jeff, and this is Home Built Workshop. So make sure you stick around. The trimmer that we're working on today is a Troy-Bilt TB6044XP. This is a 4-cycle engine, which a lot of people like for the convenience. You don't have to mix the gas and oil. You just top off the oil, top off the gas, and you go to trimming your weeds. This is a pretty good, reliable machine when it's running right, but as I mentioned, it hasn't been running very good. I've already gone through the carburetor, cleaned it out, and the problem still persists, so I think there's something going on with the carburetor, which brings us to today's project. Now, if you've watched my channel for a while, you've likely seen several other small engine repair videos, and you'll know that I usually prefer using OEM parts whenever I can. Sometimes those OEM parts can be super hard to find, and maybe when you do find it, the cost is so high that it really doesn't make sense for a repair such as this. So today, I'm going to be installing this aftermarket carburetor to get this trimmer back up and running. When I need aftermarket parts, the first place that I like to look is a place called HIPPA, who also happens to be the awesome sponsor of today's video. HIPPA provides high-quality aftermarket parts for small engines, everything from carburetors and fuel lines to air filters and spark plugs. One thing I'm especially excited about is their line of specialized carburetor adjusting tools, which make tuning small engines a whole lot easier. It doesn't matter if you're fixing up a weed trimmer like I am today, a chainsaw, or even a lawnmower, HIPPA has what you need to get the job done. You can check out their full lineup at HIPPAstore.com. A huge thanks to HIPPA for sponsoring today's video. Now let's install this carburetor and hopefully get this thing back up and running once and for all. The first thing we're going to remove is this air cleaner housing and the air filter. Now we need to get this plastic piece out of the way. There's 4 screws that hold this on. The first 2 are obvious, and they're right here. These 2 also conveniently hold the carburetor in place. There's also one other screw right here and another screw back in here. We're going to use a T25 Torx bit to remove those screws. Make sure they're all loose. And when we pull these 2 out, you can see that everything is really loose right now. And just kind of work this out of the way. There's a little notch down here that kind of gets stuck. There's also a vent right here which has this little rubber hose. Now I just pulled that out of there. Disconnect that rubber hose from the vent. Don't lose the vent because it's just a loose piece. I'm not sure why it's loose. Maybe it's replaceable? I don't really know. But anyway, we'll set this aside, taking care not to lose the screws like I almost did. And now the carburetor, you can see, is loose right there. Let's take a little bit closer look just so we know where all of our connections are. Most of what we need to disconnect are these little fuel lines. So we have one down here at the bottom. We have one that comes off of the back side. And then we have another one at the top. So all we really need to do is to remember where these go. And I think the way these hoses are already curved, that's going to help us keep everything straight. This line on the back is where your fuel comes in. These other 2 black lines, those go to the primer bulb and they bring fuel into the carburetor. And then this clear line here is a return line to the tank from the primer bulb. So really not a whole lot. The only other thing we have to disconnect is our throttle cable right here, which we could do that right now. It has this sort of L-shaped deal on here. That's the technical term, an L-shaped deal. That all you really do is you pull this to the side and take that L out, and we can let that sit. Now we'll just disconnect our fuel lines, maybe. Sometimes they can really be stuck on there. I'm just using a pair of pliers, gently twisting it back and forth to work that off of the fitting. If you squeeze too hard, damage the line, break the fitting. There we go. So remember how this goes. It goes just like that. There we go. There we go. Old carburetor's off, ready to replace. Now, like I mentioned earlier, I've already gone through the carburetor. I've removed this in the past. I took it apart, made sure everything was clean and clear, all the passages are good, and yet it still doesn't run right. And that's the reason that I'm just gonna go ahead and replace it. Normally, that would be my process. I would clean this out. A lot of times you put it back together and it's gonna work just fine. But for some reason, that didn't fix it this time around, and that's why we're replacing it. We'll just do a quick comparison on the new versus old carburetor. Everything looks about the same. The only thing I'm noticing really different is the new one has an adjustment screw. I'm guessing that's a mixture screw. We don't have a mixture screw on the original one, which is interesting. So maybe we'll have a little bit more adjustability with this. That's kind of cool. It's just a regular flathead. A lot of times these carburetors will have odd-shaped adjusting screws that you need special tools to get in there. This one is going to be easily adjusted with a flathead, which kind of bums me out because I was looking forward to using my adjusting tools from my friends at HIPPA. A lot of times these little carburetors have specially shaped screws where you can't just use a flathead or a Phillips head. You got to use a D shape or a Pac-Man shape, some sort of special star shape to get in there. This little tool set has all of those and makes it super easy to get in there and make the adjustments. And while we won't be able to use them on this particular carburetor, I'll be able to use them on a lot of other machines. So again, if you want to check out some of these things, I'm going to put a link to their website down in the video description. Head on over there. Check out the offerings from my friends over at HIPPA. Let's put this thing back on. Now, if I say installation is reverse of removal, it sort of sounds like I'm being a smart aleck, but it literally is. It's exactly the same thing. We're going to first connect our 3 hoses, one on the top, one on the underside, and our supply line from the tank. Then we'll reconnect our throttle cable, work that little L through there. There we go. Now, if you wanted to start this up to make sure it's going to work, before you put it all back together, you could bolt this in place right now, lightly snug these down, and start it up. But I'm feeling confident. We're going to go right to our little plastic piece with the vent. Just to show you, this little vent just fits in there. But you got to do that kind of through the plastic piece. Don't throw it on the floor. That's probably the trickiest part. And it's not at all difficult. There's just not a lot of room. I'm not really sure the best way to do this. So we're just going to work that in there. There we go. And now we got to line up everything all at once. There is an O-ring. I should have showed you that ahead of time. There's an O-ring on the carburetor. And make sure you leave that O-ring there and don't lose it. That's a seal between the carburetor and this piece. Get our bolts started. There we go. Got to get that little nub. There's a little tab right here that's got to fit underneath this plastic piece. You can see how this kind of wiggles around. I've only got these 2 screws in. The other 2 screws will make this solid, but that's because I guess what I would call the intake manifold on this particular machine is made out of rubber, a little bit of a shock absorber. Maybe it's not rubber, but some sort of a flexible material. We can put these other 2 screws in. Let's put this last screw back in place, which holds the little bracket for the air filter. Make sure everything's snug down. And technically, our carburetor is replaced. Before I take this outside and fire it up, I do want to spend a little bit of time doing a few other things to this. Off camera, I'm going to go ahead and replace all of the fuel lines and the primer bulb. I'm not going to do that in this video, mainly because not that long ago, I made an individual video replacing fuel lines on my own personal weed trimmer. I'm going to put a link here, or is it over here? Whatever side it's on, you can go check out that video. I'm going to follow the exact same procedure that I used in that video to replace all of these. Then we'll come back and we'll fire this up and see how it runs. I'm just putting everything back together after getting the new fuel lines on there. You might be able to see a little bit of this greenish colored fuel line. That's the new ones. Air filter cover. Normally I would leave all that off and just take it outside and start it up. But we're just going for it. You can see I've not already started it. Well, can't really touch it's not hot. It's not already been tested out, so we're going to do this right now. We'll give the primer bulb a few pumps. That is brand new. One thing that's kind of weird, I can hear it doing the pumping that it's supposed to, but the primer bulb is not filling with fuel. I'm not sure why. I did verify inside the tank. It is pumping fuel back into the tank. The way that works is it draws fuel out of the tank through the carburetor and then back into the tank. It's not really a primer bulb, I guess. It's more of a purge bulb. So just going to press this a few times. We'll take it outside, fire it up. That was a good sign. Let's give it a little bit of throttle. A couple more pumps. And we've got a great idle right out of the box. That's cool. Look at that. Easy. Man, that idle's great. Fixed. And bam, there you have it. Brand new carburetor replaced on our Troy-Bilt TB6044XP. Seems to run perfect. I'm pretty impressed. Right out of the box, no adjustments necessary. Of course, we didn't get to use our fancy HIPPA carburetor adjusting tool set, which is a little bit of a disappointment, but that's okay. I'm gonna have plenty other opportunities to use these special adjusting tools. A huge thanks again to the team over at HIPPA for helping me get this weed trimmer back up and running. Remember, if you need some aftermarket parts, head on over to hippastore.com. Check it out. All the information's down below in the description. I gotta go get to trimming some weeds. Thanks a lot for watching. We'll see you all next time. Haha, come on, trimmer. Let's do this. Or are you a strimmer? I don't know. Trimmer, strimmer, whatever it is. We're gonna cut some weeds.